What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time on this early Saturday morning or afternoon. I am Britt Devine, joined by Mr. Justin Van Zuden, STL Cards 84, Will Priester, Chief Justice 06. Justin, I want to start with you. I see you've made it back from your vacation. It does wait. Yes, you do have less hair after checking out those Cardinals in Pittsburgh, getting swept. Good family time, bad baseball time, but glad to have you back.
Yeah, thanks. The kids managed a couple of signed autograph balls the last game we were out there, so that was the only saving grace for them. Otherwise, we did an impromptu game in Cleveland while that was the first leg of our trip. They lost that one in the bottom of the ninth, and then we went to Pittsburgh and watched them get swept 3 in a row, including one by 68-year-old Rich Hill. So it was not a pleasant baseball trip. But the PNC Park is gorgeous, though. If you ever get a chance, if you're in that area, catch a game there. The park was great. Would have been nice to see the Cardinals win a game or two. But the 3 games there in Pittsburgh, the game in Cleveland, we went to a game in Milwaukee in April, and then the last game of the playoffs last year where they got eliminated now makes 7 straight Cardinal games that I have attended that they have lost. So hopefully they'll buck that trend sometime. But it was nice to get away for a week and back and happy that now if the Cardinals, stink, I can just turn the TV off.
Now, do you think you are the reason they've lost these games, Justin? They've gone 0-7 since you've attended games, or was it just predetermined?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because the MLB Ballpark app now keeps track of all your trips, and so since the Ballpark app came out, the games that we've been to, they're 9-8. So they've lost 7 in a row, and they were 9-1 before that. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. They've just not been very good this year. And, when you drive 9 hours to go see them, you hope that they win one, but didn't happen.
We're going to blame it on the team then if you had
Let's do that.
Going before. Will, my man from the DFS show coming to you weekdays at 10:30. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Doing good. Saturday, and definitely going to hang out with the fam today. Got all my stuff in prior to the show, so that way I don't have to worry about it. I think the good thing about baseball, unless somebody gets ruled out late, I don't have to really have a real sweat. Set it, forget it, and I can go out and do my thing, and I'll check later and see what happens. And a lot of times I've had some of my best days not following anything. I just, go out, have fun, come back home. It's 8, 9 o'clock at night, 10. I'm like, oh yeah, let me check and see what happens. Oh, I won. Great. So hopefully that materializes today. Those are some of the best ones, I think, where you just no sweat at all and ship it. I love it.
Yeah, I like to bet the 10 o'clock games, and then you just wake up. Oh, nice, another W. That's always nice for me. So how many likes we got? TJ's not here, but we're gonna do Britt's bets. Britt has been on the heater of his lifetime. I think I'm at, let's see, 5-0 in NBA, 14.
Britt's so hot he's talking in the fucking third person on this show right
yeah,
now.
So we've been on a heater. It's like 19-2 over my past bets on scores and odds. I've got 2 money line bets for you today. Get me up to 50 likes. I'll drop the first one. Shouldn't take you too long to do that. But let's talk some DFS. Justin, I'm going to start with you. I read your article this morning. There's some good pitchers, but nothing standing out, right? Because every matchup is reasonably tough, from the Nola, the Evaldi, Alcantara, if you still consider him to be good. I don't. Your boy Michaelis, not really a fantasy guy, more of a real-life pitcher. What are we doing today? I'm not really finding the money for Evaldi. He's definitely my top guy if I have the money, but I don't have the money because there's a game in Coors and I want some of the bats for that. So how are you handling it?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if you want to save money on pitching today, I think you absolutely can. Like, I've got the bat projections up right now, and nobody's projected for more than 18 points on DraftKings, which makes sense because there's just, you've got Evaldi facing the Rays, you've got Nola facing the Dodgers, you've got let's see, you've got Alcantara facing the White Sox, and I am with you on him. He's never been a guy that's been an elite fantasy guy. Even when he was, his Cy Young season, he didn't strike out a bunch of guys. He just pitches deep into games, and the numbers have lagged this year. Bradley, is facing Texas. So all these top end guys are facing really difficult opponents. Joe Ryan against Toronto. So I don't think you have to spend top dollar for anyone. Now, if you're going with a cheap stack and you want to spend top dollar, I think just based on the numbers, I'd probably just roll with Uvalde. Even though it's the Rays, there are some outs at the bottom part of that lineup. If he can keep the power guys in check, and he's been so good that I think Uvalde is my play. And then you can make a case for Nola too, but I think it's just as easy to save. In GPPs, you've got the high strikeouts and the high walks from Senga. If you want to YOLO something, I think you could throw Senga out there. But none of these guys are must-haves. And we've got a Coors slate here. We've got several teams. You got Oakland on the slate, so you got a team facing them. The Orioles are projected for over 5 runs. So I think you go cheaper. And again, there's nobody that really stands out. I think Michaelis is safe, but he doesn't strike a lot of guys out. Bobby Miller is probably my favorite guy. Really impressed with what we've seen from him. Sunday Night Baseball last weekend against the Yankees pitched real well. Somehow he's still only 7K on DraftKings. If you think they extend him a little bit more pitch count wise too, that's going to make the projection look a lot better, but he's only 7K. I mean, he's priced down there with Paul Blackburn and Matthew Boyd and Oviedo and Tehran and those guys. So Bobby Miller, I think, is my first choice kind of on a points per dollar basis. Maybe I try to get Miller and Uvalde together, but you could go Michaelis, you could go Kopech, you could punt with Cole Irvin if you want. I just don't think the pitching is going to be the difference maker today. So why not save some salary? Just try to avoid a complete landmine. I mean, don't go playing, Kyle Freeland against the Padres and Coors or anything. But Bobby Miller is the guy on a points per dollar basis that I'll probably take the biggest stand on today.
Yeah, my guy. So I like the Miller call. I think the 3 for me is probably going to, if you want ultimate safety, is probably Michaelis. The matchup's reasonably good today, and he's really turned his season around. So I like him. I like the Miller call. But another guy who's turned his season around today is Michael Kopech, and that leads me into my first bet of the day is the White Sox for sure, the money line against Alcantara, who's just not. There are 2 pitchers in opposite directions right now. Kopech's saving a season. I think he's got at least 9 Ks in 4 straight games, and he's got a reasonably good strike. Not Luis Arraez, he's not got to strike him out, but everybody else, he should be able to get some Ks today. So I like Kopech quite a bit along with the White Sox money line. And then Miller and Michaelis, because you've got Tatis, and if you want Soto, and if you want a couple of the Rockies that are up there too, you got to spend some money. So that's basically what I'm looking at from my pitching core. Will, from a tournament perspective, where do you stand on Alcantara? Is he someone you're willing to go back to despite his struggles? It is the White Sox, or are you not really on him today from a tournament perspective?
Well, I just don't play him on the road anyway. So whether he was good or not, he's a guy, he's on the road. I just hit the X button. Historically, he hasn't been great on the road. And this year, he definitely hasn't been great on the road. I think at one point his ERA was at 20, and that's not still that high, obviously, on the road. But I'm just no shares of Sandy for me today. I'll probably have a handful of guys probably anchoring with Kopech and Miller. And then I am going to play some Abbott today. Cards is not wrong about what's happening with St. Louis here. If you check the K rates over the past 30 days that you can do in the new plate IQ, they are up versus where they've been on the season. And that also doesn't mean they're going to get waxed today, but I'm going to play some shares of Abbott at 6,500 just because the Cincinnati Reds seem to be comfortable with rolling their pitchers, all of their pitchers out of 100 pitches. And so if they're not going to limit him, he's on the road, but I don't care about that. I'm at 6,500. I'm going to take some shots. I'll probably take a shot with Singer as well at 5,800. Now, he hasn't been great, but at 5,800, he does have some skills. I'm willing to roll the dice with Singer in tournaments. So mainly in tournaments, it's going to be Kopech, Miller, and Abbott. And then obviously, if you want to play Nola, if you want to play Eovaldi, I'm not going to try to convince you out of that. I'd probably try to convince you more out of Nola than Eovaldi for what it's worth. I think Eovaldi would be a better play than Nola today, just based on the matchup and kind of how they pitched this season. I know Nola is kind of turning a corner here recently. I know he's got a spike matchup against Detroit, But I want to see it a little bit more against good teams before I decide that I'm going to spend 10K on Nola, who really overall hasn't had the season that we're accustomed to seeing.
What do you think of Eovaldi today? So my second bet, I'll just get it out of the way here. I won't beg you for likes the whole show, is Texas today, basically on the back of Eovaldi, because he's literally a Cy Young contender in my mind. A stat cast is phenomenal. I think it's 4. I forgot what I wrote up on scores and odds. I can bring it up, but I think it's like 4 earned runs over his last 7 games. I mean, he's been basically unhittable. I know it's Tampa Bay and they are a scary offense, but I'll take the Rangers to win this game on the back of Eovaldi. Bradley's pretty good too. I think he's slightly interesting today from a tournament perspective as well. I think he can get some Ks even in limited innings, and in limited innings on a slate like today, it could possibly be he's the guy you need. 20 fantasy points might lead the way. He could possibly get there too, but I'm on the back of Eovaldi for sure tonight. How are you handling him as the highest priced pitcher when we have Rockies, we have Padres that we want to spend up on?
I mean, I think you can get him in when you're playing Miller, and I'm playing some Abbott, so I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. Once again, the reason I'm not as high on Eovaldi is just because I do want to load up on some offenses. But if I'm going all the way up, I am going to him. I don't think Eovaldi gets 7 strikeouts today or 8 or whatever it is, but I think the most realistic outcome for Eovaldi is 7 to 8 innings, 5 strikeouts, and maybe he gives up a run or 2. So you're basically paying up for Eovaldi. He has some strikeouts, but I think you're paying up for the leash. Like, this is the one guy on this slate. If you told me right now, hey, he was going 9 innings, I believe you. So I'm fine with Eovaldi for sure.
All right. And before we get to cards for some offense, Will, tell the people about your show, 10:30 weekdays. What do you got going on?
Yeah, man, it's Take Your Pick'em, basically talking through prize picks, underdog, vivid, hot streak, parlay play, any of the sites that you can think of. And what I try to do is try to, cover things industry-wide so that if you get it on one site, you can get it on the others. Full disclosure, Prize Picks does typically give out more pick'em cards or pick'em squares than anyone else. So sometimes I'll find some unique ones on there that I really like, and I'll discuss those. But 10:30 every weekday. We are tracking it just so you can kind of keep up with how we've been doing. Last month, I think we got, 40, 50 plays right, around 30-something plays wrong, and a couple pushes. And it's been a good little ride so far. So come hang out, bring your questions, and let's make some money every weekday,
10:30 right here on the YouTube or at rotogrinders.com/videos. All right, cards, offense. Everyone knows Game and Coors has got a 12 total. I've bet the Rockies over 5.5 as a team total today. The Padres are sitting there with a 6.5 team total. And, how do you not avoid this game? You got to have 3, 4, 5 bats, from this game, in my opinion, on all your cash teams today.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the approach. And, there's ways, obviously, if you're going value at pitcher, if you go with a combination of, let me just do this right quick. If you go with some combination of, let's say you go Miller and Michaelis as, say, your cash game pitchers. So if I lock Miller in and Michaelis in, I've got, that's the wrong guy. That's too much. Miller and Michaelis leaves me with $4,363 per hitter to spend. Whereas, if you go with the higher end pitcher, you're in more of the 3K range. So if you got $4,300 per bat to spend, and you get 1 or 2 value guys, I mean, you can pretty much take your pick of which one of the top end guys that you want. So the top end guys, certainly Tatis, Machado, any of the right-handed San Diego bats are probably the first place I would go against Freeland, who has pretty extreme splits. Gary Sanchez is hitting cleanup today. He's 4K. He'll be the chalkiest catcher on DraftKings for sure. So you can get your Padres bats. And some may be wondering, where you go for value or what's the easiest place to find that. I present to you my favorite vomit stack in GPPs while it kind of relates to the subject. And that's the A's. We're going to plant a flag on the A's today. The new look A's, they've won 3 in a row. They're 15-50 now. Look out for the A's. They might win 40 games.
Get that World Series bet in.
Yeah, get those A's futures in. But seriously, if you look at the numbers for Julio Teheran, I mean, I think his ERA is like 1.8 or something like that. But this dude's literally been walking on water in his first. So he's made 3 starts. He's got a 1.56 ERA and a 4.84 xFIP and a 235 opposing batting average on balls in play. He's got a 15% strikeout rate. And he hasn't pitched full-time in the major leagues for 3 years, and his strikeout rate was 13% in that year. Like, this dude is not a good major league pitcher. And he's like $8,500 or something on DraftKings. And people are probably going to play Teheran because he's facing the A's. But, I mean, the big problem with this Oakland team is their pitching. Their bats aren't great, but at least in the right matchup, they can be capable, and they've looked decent this week. I mean, they scored 7 runs in the first inning the other day. All of their bats are mega cheap. Ryan Noda has great numbers against right-handed pitching. Like Seth Brown is cheap. Esteury Ruiz will steal bases. Their lineup's not out yet, but I mean, all these Oakland guys are cheap, and basically the fact is that Teheran is terrible. So I think you can even play a couple Oakland bats in cash games, get your Coors guys around it, and that's basically how you're starting out your cash game core. And obviously we can dig into the positions, but that's my general thought of how to approach today.
Chief, I know you're usually underweight Coors. Really give your take on that. Cards mentioned Oakland. There's an 11 game slate on DraftKings this morning. What else can we do to maybe be a little bit different?
Yeah, so I think Washington is in play a little bit, and I'm not typically a Washington fan, but I'm not a Jared Schuster fan either. So I think they're in play. I don't hate the Mets against Oviedo. Their team is mostly healthy right now, and so I don't hate them as well. I don't hate the Royals against Cole Irvin. I don't hate a little bit of the Orioles in terms of maybe one-offs or a couple of mini stacks against Singer. Even though I do like Singer at 5,800 on DraftKings. I don't hate that. And then I also, in a weird way, because Sandy's been so bad on the road, like I'm in on some White Sox stacks against him at home. And then I don't hate the Diamondbacks against Matthew Boyd. So those are just some extra ones. If you want to kind of plug those guys in, I don't hate those stacks at all.
Yeah, I think I can agree with basically everything that you pointed out. I'm on a bunch of those, at least from the sports betting perspective as well. All right. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Fanduel, real quick. If you are a new customer to Fanduel in a sports betting state, you can get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. What? Make sure to take advantage of that. If you are a new customer, you know, probably most of you, if you're in a sports betting state, you have Fanduel, but if for some reason you don't, getting a no sweat first bet up to $2,500 and bonus bets is great. Check the terms and conditions. But thanks to Fanduel for offering that and sponsoring the show. All right, position by position. Gary Sanchez. The bat has him at 20% owned in tournaments. It's going to be more than that. I can guarantee you that. Cards. Everyone's on him. He's the cash game catcher from the scrap heap to clean up in Coors. I mean, for the Padres who have a good team, this is if Gary Sanchez is hot and he's hot and he can just go on a nice little home run streak, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have a 2 for 30 coming up here pretty soon, and then it'll all come crashing
Today,
back
probably.
to reality. But hitting cleanup in Coors, is not really the spot you kind of want to bank on that. I mean, I don't mind pivoting away from him in tournaments just because it's variance and it's DFS baseball, and that's what happens. But, in cash games, he's clearly the play. If Alvarez is in the lineup for the Mets, I like him a good bit too. Mm-hmm. And he's only 3,400. Like, I don't think there's really any reason to mess with anything else in cash. I mean, in stacks, you can play Rutschman in your Baltimore stacks and Diaz in your Colorado stacks, but they're both over 5K on DraftKings. So, in cash games, you're probably getting Sanchez or Alvarez here.
Yeah, and a side note, again, make sure a lot of the games are at 4:00, and we will have a show for the FanDuel slate for all you guys playing there a little bit later. I think that'll start around 3:30 or so. So make sure to come back for the FanDuel slate. But make sure to check your lineups as the day progresses. I don't think we're going to get all the 4:00 lineups, so just make sure you stay on top of that personally. Chief, if everyone's on Gary Sanchez, he's someone who, I know it's in Coors, but very, very fadeable player. He can go 0-for-4 with 3 Ks against anybody. No problem. What are some other options to get different on DK this morning?
I mean, so usually what I like to do is, and I think that's what everybody likes to do. I just try to play catchers in the middle of my stacks. Now, I don't hate Sal Perez at 5K just because I'm going to be. I will have some lineups that are like double cheap pitchers where I have Abbott and and Miller. So I'm going to be able to get to some of these guys, and so that's kind of my approach. I don't hate him. In terms of the White Sox, I don't hate Yasmani Grandal. Hasn't been great this season, but he's 3,600, and I just don't trust Sandy on the road. So he's a guy that I'll be playing Moreno against Boyd. In terms of Arizona, I don't hate that as well.
All right, let's go to first base. A couple ways you can play this. You can go cheap with a Noda on DraftKings. If you like the A's, he's 2,700, and that price looks really good. First base, you've got Christian Walker, righty lefty against Boyd. That's pretty good. I like Goldschmidt if you have the money, but if Goldschmidt's 5,500 in a vacuum, I'm going to find money to play Tatis for 6,300 or Machado, somebody like that who's even less on DraftKings. So I don't really have the money for that cards. Noda's looking like a nice salary saver for me. The bat has him projected as the highest fantasy scorer too. That can't be bad. So he's probably going to be my main guy.
Yeah, especially when he's 2,700. And I mean, we didn't lose any viewers when I recommended the A's, so that's a plus. I know it, it might seem like crazy talk, but again, it's just Tehran is not a good pitcher and he allows a lot of contact and lefty power against him. I mean, Noda's got almost a 400 WOBA against righties anyways, and he's 2,700. So Noda is number one for me. Walker is probably number two when you factor in salary. Boyd, we know, struggles with right-handed power bats. Walker has amazing splits against lefties. I like the Goldschmidt take as well, but it kind of ends up Goldschmidt and, Freeman and those guys just end up in the same fate of I'd rather pay up for other guys and Vlad and stuff like that. So give me Tatis, Machado, or Acuna, the Braves guys. We haven't gotten to a lot of them yet, and at first you've got Olsen, lefty. And I'm a little lower on the Braves than I think the masses will be today. Like, I respect Gore enough, but he does walk a lot of guys, and the Braves can score against anybody. So that being underweight on the Braves worries me. And certainly you can play a couple of them in cash if you want, but they just end up not being priorities for me at most of the positions.
Yeah, the other guy would be Rowdy Tellez for me. I forgot to mention him, but if you're looking for a home run bet at home in Milwaukee today, looks like a pretty good one. Also rosterable in DFS. Chief, what else we doing at the first base position? If Noda's the cheap guy, everyone else is going to be kind of lumped together. I think ownership pretty spread out.
Yeah, for sure. I don't hate Rowdy Tellez, Christian Walker. Like I said, these are I really do like Arizona. Christian Walker at 4K. So I don't. He's probably one of the plays that I actually really like here. I don't hate Meneses at 3,600. I think he's a really good play today, facing Schuster, typically a guy that's hit for pretty good power against lefties. So I don't hate him on the cheap end. You've got Torkelson facing Nelson. I'm not high on Detroit in terms of stacks, but I don't hate if you can get a couple cheap pieces. Nelson is not a guy that I'm afraid of. And then you've got Gavin Sheets, 2,400. I know, he's down at the bottom of the order, but once again, facing Sandy, this is a guy that can for sure send one out of the park.
All right, let's go to second base. Waiting on the Oakland lineup cards. Jace Peterson on DraftKings, 2,200. Again, this allows you to play an Eovaldi, somebody like that, from a DFS perspective. And, against Tehran, if it's all smoke and mirrors, that looks like a pretty good price. If you're spending up, I'm probably on your boy Edman. I just don't have the money. These other, maybe Albies would probably be my other guy in Marte. But I don't know. It's just another position. I'm looking to go safe cheap as long as Peterson ends up cracking that Oakland lineup today.
Yeah, he's perfectly fine at that salary, basically min salary, to where, if you don't want to spend 4 or 5K, like Marte's around 5K, Albies is around 5K. Edman does have really good splits against lefties, and leading off today, I think he's certainly viable. You can play him in the outfield as well, but I don't have a strong take as far as, if you're spending up, who the best option is. I mean, Marte, Albies, Edman, throw Cronenworth in there, even lefty, they all kind of project around the same, and they're similar salaries. Adam Frazier, maybe if you end up needing to go a little bit cheaper, assuming he leads off for Baltimore, would also be in that mix. But fine punting with Peterson at 2,200 if he's in the lineup.
Chief, how are you handling the second base?
Once again, just kind of sticking in the stacks, but Marte is at the top of my list with Arizona. I'll have some Albies just because Gore does have strikeout stuff this year, like he's hovering around 30%, but the Braves against lefties have been a much lower strikeout team than they've been against righties. So I don't hate Albies today. You've got not G1 Bay, Jesus. You got Matan here against Nelson. I don't hate that. But yeah, those are some of my main guys.
All right,
Marte's at the top for me.
Okay, third base, Manny Machado. Also, not that it matters, cards. A lot of BVP against Freeland as well. Too cheap. He's come back. Looks like a pretty good spot for him to have a nice day in Coors.
Yeah, I think he's clearly the top third baseman. And if you're playing on the 110 slate on Fanduel, which has that game on it, what is he, 3,300 on Fanduel. He's clearly the guy there. Yeah. So Machado would be a priority for me in almost all my cash builds. Like Montero's hitting fifth for the Rockies, so you can play him if you want. Austin Riley, obviously. I think Austin Riley's an interesting GPP pivot away from Machado. At what will probably end up being a half or a third of the ownership, but Machado is the clear play and probably a priority spend today.
Yeah, absolutely agree, Chief. If everyone's playing Machado again, the bat has him at 15%, and I think because you can get to the Padres so easily today, I would take the over on a lot of their projected ownership, at least from the bat. I could check and see. I bet the plate IQ, the RotoGrinders one, has him a little bit higher. Actually, even a little lower. Yeah, I know there's a lot of games out there today, but he's going to be over 14, 15% for sure. What are we doing to get away from him?
Yeah, so Riley is definitely going to be on my list. He's a guy that I really like. I don't hate some Candelario at 4,100 against Schuster. He's a guy that's had okay power against lefties. Brian Hayes at 4K, even against Senga. I do think he's the guy that could slam one out of the park. You got Moncada here at 3,500, part of those White Sox stacks. He's a guy that I think you can get in as well. And then at the give me a second here. I'm trying to figure out. Well, never mind. We're only going to be able to get him at shortstop. So I'll talk about him at shortstop. Never mind.
All right. Let's try to roll through these last positions. We'll get a couple of questions. Real quick cards. Shortstop, cash games. We playing Bogarts, Adames. Those are probably the two I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think for me in a lot of the lineup builds, the salary has mattered a little bit. So I would prioritize getting up to Machado, getting up to Tatis, and if you have to forego Bogarts, I think that's fine. Because Adames is a good bit cheaper on both sides, and then Lindor is maybe in there as well. Funny how Ellie De La Cruz mania has calmed down after one poor game, or maybe two, I guess. There is a lot of swing and miss in that bat, as we found out the last couple of games. But Michaelis doesn't strike a lot of guys out, so I think interesting tournament play at either third or short on DraftKings with De La Cruz. Now that kind of the first few days mania has subsided, but cash games, Bogarts, Lindor, Adames is probably one of those three guys for me.
Chief, shortstop.
Yeah, so that's De La Cruz is actually what I was going to talk about. I can't get him at third, but I want to get him in at shortstop. But mainly at shortstop, Witt and Anderson, De La Cruz, Lindor.
The A's lineup has come out. Ruiz leading off, Noda, Seth Brown, Laureano, Peterson did make it, hitting fifth there. So all the guys we wanted to use are basically in the A's lineup. So
I cannot wait to lose money on the A's today. Let's go. I'll probably end up betting them too. Let's just go all in on the A's.
Outfield cards, Tatis, he's obviously the priority cash spend. You've got a couple other guys from that game you could maybe go to. Grichuk is a reasonable price on DraftKings at 4,600. I like his matchup quite a bit today in the mid-tier. those are the two guys I think I'm prioritizing. Are you on both of them? And then who are we mixing in for maybe a value play or someone else we're looking at?
Yeah, I think your cash game build is probably pretty straightforward. One spend up, that's likely Tatis. One punt, for me, that's Seth Brown. And then one kind of 4K-ish play, whether that's I like Nimmo. I think assuming, again, he leads off against a righty. You could go with Grichuk, who you mentioned as well, who fits that kind of 4K price mold. If you had a little bit, more to spend, maybe you get up to a Yelich at 4,800. But to me, it's Tatis, it's Seth Brown, and then kind of, let your salary fill in your third cash game play.
All right. And then Chief, from a tournament in the outfield, how would we get a little different today?
Give me Lourdes Gurriel, give me Benintendi. I do like the Reds against Nicholas today, so give me Frito here at the top. Like him a ton. Don't hate Steers well. Give me from the Royals. I don't hate Melendez. I know it's lefty. I don't hate Olivares as well. And then from Washington, Stone Garrett's 3K. You got this, Alex Call. I don't mind those guys. I don't hate the Mets bats and Nemo. Pham is out there. Of course, I do like the Braves today against Gore. Hopefully they help him run the pitch count up. And those are kind of some of the main guys just to kind of get off of course.
All right, let's go to Discord. We'll get some questions there, and then we'll take them from YouTube, heading to the Crunch Time channel. Right now, again, if you're looking for a couple of bets possibly, I was on the White Sox, and I'm on the Rangers money lines today. All right, to Discord, a couple of questions. Let's see here. Falcor wants to know, FanDuel single entry, Arizona or Colorado? He's already got San Diego. I mean, San Diego with Colorado, that's what everybody's going to be doing, I think, in general today. You're allowed to do that. Chief, would you try to mix it up a little bit?
Let's mix it up.
Yeah, I think adding Arizona into the San Diego, that will be a popular pairing as well, but I don't think I'd do a full core stack and a single entry. Seems like a lot of the field would probably be doing the same. All right, going to go to YouTube really quick. Let's see here. Senga, DraftKings tournament today. Cards, I'll start with you. You talked about him a little. Not the most exciting, but nothing's really exciting from pitching overall today.
Yeah, he does have a high strikeout rate. He also walks a lot of guys. So the question is, what do you think of that Pirates offense? Do they continue to play over their heads? Are they for real? I don't know. I sat here disparaging the Pirates and then watched my team get swept by them. And then they lost a series to Oakland. The Pirates lost a series to Oakland, and then they scored 14 against the Mets last night. So I don't really know who the Pirates are. Like, on paper, they shouldn't be very good, but they are apparently not too bad. So I like Senga in GPPs if you're multi-entering. Single entry, I probably don't get there today.
You just went down the rabbit hole of like the most absolutely horrible, disappointing teams in baseball, from the Cardinals to the A's to the Pirates to the Mets. So,
yeah,
the thing is, the Pirates aren't as bad as you think. They're not really striking out a ton. Like,
I know, but like you look
not.
at this is a team. I sat up there and they're throwing Carlos Santana up there hitting cleanup and Rich Hill on the mound, and they're like winning a bunch of games. Like it shouldn't be happening, but it is happening.
I know.
Let's see here. Plate IQ, yes. Plate IQ had a couple changes. There's some back-end stuff going on at RotoGrinders. We had to make some changes. It's still pretty usable. It's missing some of the stats I want. I'm not as happy about it as I'd like to be, but it had to be done. Still pretty usable and a great tool. So don't give up on it just yet. I know they're trying to get as many improvements as possible on it. Jake wants to know, DraftKings 3-entry max. Sanchez, Carroll, or Moreno, Acuna. So I think that Sanchez with Corbin Carroll looks pretty good. Carroll's looking real good this year.
If you're playing at 3-entry max, just play both combinations. I think take one with one and one with the other.
What if he's only got one entry though, Chief?
Give me Moreno, Acuna. But
all right,
that's me because I'm not a Coors guy, so you have to understand that going in. Like, I'm going to be anti most Coors builds.
All right. I will say I do like Michael Kopech quite a bit today. He is anchoring my DraftKings cash team. Let's go to, I think there was a nice question here. Where did it go? I saw it. Michaelis or Miller DraftKings tournament. I'll start with you, Cards.
Yeah, no, that's Miller. Michaelis isn't a GPP guy.
Yeah, I would even think Miller over Cash just to get some, have some strikeout upside in case something goes wrong. Chief, where do you stand on that?
Miller all day.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on that one. Dante wants to know Nelson, Tatis, so Nelson the pitcher, Tatis, or Taj Bradley and Jeff McNeil.
Oof.
I mean, if I had to take those two, was that for Cards?
It's either one. Anyone can take it.
I'd go Bradley McNeil, but because I think Nelson's awful.
Yeah, I'm not playing Nelson at all. And then if that's a tournament, if that's a cash game lineup, I don't really like, the Bradley McNeil combo, all that. In tournaments, I think Bradley McNeil is fine. In cash games, I would probably scrap and go with plan C.
Yeah, figure something out. The to be determined when you're clicking around last second. We'll get to that one. All right. Any more in Discord? Arenado, Arenado today. Our boy, Mr. Derek Carty, is not here today. Can we back Arenado today?
He's looked better. He's the one guy on this team that hasn't been floundering as much at the plate. I think he's got like a 975 OPS over the last 10 days or something like that. He did homer last night. So, and they are facing a lefty. So yeah, I don't mind him, especially at low ownership in GPPs, because everybody's going to be on Machado. So guys like Riley and Arenado, I think are fine for tournaments today. I mean, I'm not running out to get him, but I think he's playable.
All right. Cards, real quick, give a breakdown of pitching of what we were looking at. We got a couple minutes here. There's only the one game at 110. So you can sort of run over if you want. If people are making some changes, it's Arizona, Detroit. I don't think we're really targeting those guys. So maybe people coming in
probably
late.
Not. You're not playing Boyd or Ryan Nelson anyway. Yeah. So, but pitching, there isn't really a whole lot to talk about. It kind of stinks. There's a whole lot of projections that are narrow and not, there's not a lot of upside. So, yeah, if you've got the salary, you can play Uvalde. You can play Nola if you want, but Uvalde's my guy if I'm spending up. But I think most builds you're going to want to go a little bit cheaper. For me, that's Bobby Miller. I think he's the best kind of cheaper choice on the board today. Bradley, projects okay. Kopech projects okay. Like Michaelis projects okay for cash, but just not a lot there at pitching. So I'd rather save and spend up with the bats. And, I'm probably on mostly a Uvalde Miller combo, but you're just trying to avoid a negative or a score that kills you today.
Yeah. 6 from pitching today is not going to get it done, but a 15 might.
Yeah,
exactly. I think there's enough upside today where you're going to need one of these guys is going to have a big game, I think. So yeah. I do like this is why. So I was on Michaelis a little earlier for the safety, but it's just he's not going to be the guy at the end of the day to get you there. So I would take him, like Chief said, sort of out of my tournament pool. And even on my cash team, I sort of moved away from him as the show progressed because there's too much upside from guys like Kopech and Eovaldi, and we've got Miller, and you can throw a couple other guys out there that might be able to get there, and it's just not going to be Nicholas at the end of the day.
Let me say this too. Believe it or not, I don't think any of us would be surprised if Joe Ryan went out and struck out 10 guys today in Toronto. He's sitting around a 30% K rate on the season as well. The problem is all the best pitchers have the worst matchups today. That's really what it is. But any of them could go out and just murder a team, and we wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Senga mowed down Pittsburgh. I don't think any of us would be surprised. So once again, I do think Kopech and Miller are your best options. But I think, mix and matching these other guys, maybe not Nola as much for me, but Ryan, Senga, Bradley, any of those guys could go out and get 7-8 strikeouts today, and we go, well, okay. It wouldn't surprise us at all.
Yeah, I want to remind everyone for the FanDuel slate. So that starts at 4:10 Cards, right? Not 4:05, but at 4:10 is the fan. Yeah, 4:10 we'll have the FanDuel slate, and it's going to be me, and it looks like TJ will be coming back. So if you're looking for Spidey bombs, we'll have some at 3:30 for the FanDuel show. We'll also be including the FanDuel slate has the late games tonight, so it runs from 4:10 all the way through. So make sure to come back for that. Anything final, Cards? You got any bets you were on today?
Well, I'm not on them yet, but apparently I'm going to be betting the A's after the show. So wish me luck with that.
They're on the hot streak. I mean, if the Pirates beat the Cardinals and then the A's beat the Pirates, you got to bet the A's now, right?
All I hear there is that the A's are probably going to sweep the Cardinals when they play later in the year. But yeah, I mean, they're playing well, and the pitcher today that they're facing stinks. So yeah, let's go A's.
I'm going to recommend not going to those games cards because you might need those. Well, I don't know. Do you want the wins?
I'll be very upset if we get swept by the A's.
If you're not going anywhere. We got a question from Mark Sanchez. Hopefully not the butt fumble one, but a different one. Reynolds or Yelich in a DraftKings tournament today? I like Yelich. I like the Milwaukee bats quite a bit today against Oakland. Does anyone have a strong take on either one of those?
I like Yelich as well.
Yeah, I go Yelich.
All right, so we're all on Yelich. Let me check Discord. Bill wants to know. Oh, Bill's got a home run. Machado, Tatis, Grigic all go deep today. That sounds like a good same game parlay to throw together. It's probably not Patrick Wisdom odds cards, but it's probably not the greatest putting all three of those to homer and Coors. But yeah, no Patrick Wisdom on this slate. Maybe a little later in the day we'll get that one. All right, I think that's going to do it for today's slate. Again, make sure to check back for the FanDuel slate. That starts at 3:30. I'll be back with TJ and have some Spidey bombs. I'm on the White Sox and the Rangers as far as money line bets today. Check out Chief Show weekdays 10:30 for all of your the over-unders, all of that type of stuff that you want to play. And other than that, everyone have a good day. For Chief and Cards, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, and we out you.